In this video, we are going to be going into the version 3 of our touchscreen and programming options for our Premier Stainless Systems kegwashers. The program covered in this video is for kegwashers manufactured since January of 2019.
We first want to take a look at the home screen. All of the valves and pumps have indicator lights for when they are in use. You also have drain and inlet sensor indicators under the kegs, labeled X3 for drain and X4 for inlet, indicating when liquid is entering or leaving the keg. The detergent tank will show an enabled or disabled text depending on your customized settings. The system status in the upper left-hand corner shows what step you are on in the cycle, how many seconds into that step you are, as well as the step repeat indicator. The cycle counter at the top tells you how many cycles you have left until you should change chemicals, which can be adjusted in your settings menu. On the right side of the screen, we have the factory, wash 1, and wash 2 buttons, which are different wash timing options. Factory will be what we here at Premier Stainless set before sending out our units. The timings used in this setting are based off years of experience and usage from many of our customers. Wash 1 and Wash 2 are customer set and adjustable for custom keg washing per brewery specs. Regardless of which setting you use, we recommend taking out spears occasionally from kegs to ensure proper quality control and chemical concentrations. We have below these buttons our alarm screen, which we will cover later, and below that is our settings button, which brings us into our settings screen. In here we have our options for all of our keg washer settings. Starting with the Wash 1 settings, you go into the Wash 1 settings screen, which allows you to quick access specific parts of the Wash 1 settings. Each of the wash options can be enabled or disabled, as well as repeated multiple times. We're going to start out here in step 1. You'll see in all the steps, there's a shell and spear wash option. This activates the low flow valve, allowing the stem to be covered in liquid. It's good to note the longer you have the wash times go for, the more liquid you are putting into the kegs, which means your evacuation times will last longer as well. Having long evacuation times may cause something called a sensor fault if the settings are excessively long. So as to not have this happen, make sure you have your times like the factory settings, which are as follows. Step 1 water rinse, shell will be 16 seconds and spear will be 8 seconds. In step 2 we have our detergent wash. From our research, we have seen better and faster cleaning by doing short, multiple cycles rather than longer times washing the shell and spear, as you have shorter evacuation times. For this, we will have step 2 shell wash be 25 seconds and 8 seconds for spear. The step 3 is the same concept as step 1, although if the caustic wash is disabled, step 3 water rinse will also be disabled. Step 3 water rinse will be 16 seconds for shell and 8 seconds for spear. Step 4 sanitize wash, we have the same shell and spear options, but we also have a hold timer. What this does is to allow the liquid to sit at the bottom of the keg for a moment and ample time for the sanitizer to drip down the shell, so when you evacuate your keg with CO2, you do not have any excess sanitizer on the shell or stem. Step 4 sanitizer wash will be 15 seconds for shell, 5 seconds for spear, and 45 seconds for hold. Step 5 is the initial CO2 evacuation, while step 6 is the CO2 pressurization phase. This step pressurizes and then depressurizes the keg multiple times in order to purge the keg of oxygen and fill the keg with CO2 for packaging. You may do this as many times as you see fit to decrease your O2 levels. For step 6, we have CO2 cycles at 2. And finally, we have the chemical cycle count, which is the cycle counter from the home screen in which it will remind you to change your chemicals every set amount of cycles. In factory settings, this is normally set to 15 cycles before a chemical change warning appears. Going back to the main settings screen, you will now find a button for screen settings. This allows you to adjust the brightness of your touchscreen. Below screen settings is the dose pump test. If we hold it down, this activates our peristaltic pump for the sanitizer, allowing you to prime your pump before beginning your washes. This also allows you to rinse out your pump with water after you're done washing your kegs, especially if you use a PAA sanitizer, as PAA left within the lines for extended periods of time will eventually corrode the tube and check valve. The Reset Settings button can be used to change all of your factory settings back to factory default. Starting from the bottom of the right screen, we have the screen off button, which temporarily turns your screen off, but can be turned back on by simply tapping the touchscreen once more. Above that, we have the factory settings button, which no longer requires being accessed unless specified by a Premier Stainless Systems kegwasher specialist for troubleshooting reasons. Located under the Wash To settings, we find System Configuration. This is a brand new part of our kegwasher program. With the input of our valued customers asking for additional CO2 purging options, we have had many customers asking about CO2 purging throughout the keg washing procedure. But as the most used chemical for cleaning kegs is caustic, which reacts negatively when in the presence of CO2, we felt the need to put in certain safety precautions. You'll notice you are prompted to put in a code to access this option. Although the code is not available in this video, any qualified technician for the keg washer is able to call up Premier Stainless Systems and gain access to this code so that you may switch between air and CO2 options, so long as your chemical compatibility is correct. And if we press the home button, we return to the home page, where we can finally go into the alarm screen. On our alarm screen, you are able to see a record of when faults have been tripped. Although the clear option is here, we recommend keeping the alarms on the list, especially if you continue to receive a specific fault. This will help us here at Premier Stainless Systems to diagnose any problems that may occur. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy our keg washers.